everyone, this is Kelly from The Truth and Story. Oh, and I see my TV computer is on. I actually have, my work computer is an iMac that I do most of my work on, but I do have a gaming computer that's hooked up to my TV because I do game a lot. And so that is on because I found a new game that is called Ori and the Blind Forest. I'm going to put a link to the trailer for that game in the description box, and you can watch that and tell me if that does not make you cry. The first 10 minutes of gameplay made me cry, but then after that it gets pretty hard, but it's a lot of fun. It's a little bit difficult with the keyboard. I did pick up a Xbox 360 controller to plug into my computer because I think that's going to need it. So if you see the trailer and you love it and you're a game person, if you have a Steam account or if you open a Steam account, Steam does have it on sale right now for $11, so, or something right around $11. So that's why it's up, because I've been like doing a little, playing a little, getting frustrated, and then going and doing something else a little bit. And actually I just finished up a flyer and thought, because Sundays are really my really busy days, my busy work days. So I just finished up a flyer or an ad for work, and now I'm going to be finishing up a birth chart that is long overdue to poor somebody who knows who she is. So I'm finishing that up after this, but I wanted to get this up. So I'm doing, this is the day 3 of the 31 days of tarot for January. And the question here is about our deck collections. So I have actually, before I did this, I walked through my cubicles where all my decks are. Okay, these shelves are going to be a little bit dark, but I thought I'd go ahead and give it a go. This is sort of my main space. And back there you can see I have things kind of just, still decorated for you all. They took some of the Christmassy stuff out and left it more wintry for right now. I have a beautiful picture of a bird that was given to me by Linden Hart. And I have here either the decks that I use a lot, sort of some of my main decks. I have the Tarot Muha, the Wild Unknown, the Fountain Tarot, the Tarot of the Hidden Realms, my main Shadowscape. Even though I don't use it much, I just can't really put it away yet. I might be setting that into a personal space. I haven't quite decided yet. And I do have the Dragon, Celtic Dragon Tarot back there, not because I use it a lot, but because I'm kind of playing with it right now. And this might shift to one that I'm playing with right now that I want to keep out more for the moment. But those are kind of tarot decks there. Over here in this Over here in this cubicle is my Will Worthington decks. I have both the Druid Plant and Animal Oracle combined here and trimmed. The Celtic Lenormand. The Wildwood Tarot, which I'm using for all my Wheel of the Year things this year. The Druid Craft Tarot, and the Camelot Oracle. This is the Llewellyn Tarot, which is obviously not done by Will Worthington, but it kind of fits in the theme, so I have it over there at the moment. This may be going with the Shadowscape into sort of a more personal space, perhaps up on my shelf, where I have my kind of cards of the week and the year and the month and the season kind of things. Up here I have some of my oracles. The ones that are out are the ones I use the most. The Halloween Oracle, the Gaia Oracle, the Vintage Wisdom Oracle, and the Sacred Rebel Oracle. And then I have some in boxes. I actually use these quite a bit as well, but right now they're in boxes because I cannot keep them all out as much as I may like that setup. Then over in this cubicle I have my Lenormand Kipper kinds of decks. So these up here are all my Lenormand decks. Actually, there's another one I just have to have it put in the right place, the Mystical Lenormand. These are 2 of my Kipper decks. These are some playing card decks I use. The Pagan Lenormand that I need to review and probably a gift away. The Madame Endora's fortune telling cards, my main Kipper deck, the Fin de Sickle, as well as the Chronicles of Destiny. So these kind of are others. And then these are all my Lenormands right here. And then I have these lovely little gem jars. So I have that here. And then over here are miscellaneous things. These three are my sort of, I don't know what you would call them. This is the Dow. I use this for an East meets West, one of my Three Voices readings, but I use I Ching. These are my I Ching coins that I use. I have these larger ones on each of this deck. This is the Dow Oracle, which I use a lot. This is the Osho Zen Tarot, and this is Benabao Wen's Chinese Fortune cards. So I use these decks in a East meets West Three Voices reading, where I also cast I Ching as well. I have my Mahjong card games here, card game and or Oracle. And then I have some tarot decks that are in boxes. I do pull these out now and then, but again, I can't leave everything out. These have tarot decks in it that don't have boxes that are stackable. I do need to get some way to tag what they are, because I have to constantly open. I know this is the Green Witch because it's got that Christmassy theme. One of these would be the Steampunk Tarot, and another, I'm not sure. So I need to be able to mark those. My Centennial Smith. I have Egyptian fortune cards and my Rune Oracle card decks here. So this is kind of miscellaneous. Mostly though, it's tarot decks that are in boxes, but that I still do use. And then down here I have my astrology books, some of my journals that I use, some like, numerology, fortune telling, healing crystals, my Lenormand, my Sabbath book that is going to be coming up. These are my particular where I keep all my personal study and things that I've accumulated about various systems. This is my Rituals for Living planner, and then up here I have all of my guidebooks. Now I know this is quite dark, but I still want to show it. This is another cubicle that's underneath my entertainment center where my TV is. It's right behind my reading table. But I have, because I was starting to get because I was doing my readings here where this cubicle was showing, I decided that I had wanted to make this a little bit more tarot related than it was. And so here I have decks that I was gifted. Now, some of those decks that were over there are decks that I was gifted as well, like the Wild Unknown, the Fountain Tarot, the Osho Zen Tarot. Anyway, some of those were too, but these are those are out for specific purposes. So these are other decks. So I have like the Wooden Tarot, the Dreaming Way Tarot. This is the Enchanted Tarot, which I still need to go through. The Vanessa Tarot. This is the Stone Oracle, my Chicoli Tarot, which I love in this little tin here, Sherlock Holmes Sacred Sites, which I still need to review, my Fairy Tarot and Angel Tarot by Doreen Virtue, the I cannot say his name, but it's a Polish tarot. It's not the Polish tarot, but it's Robert. I have no clue, but it's a beautiful Polish tarot that I still need to review. And then in these boxes here, these book boxes are other ones that didn't have boxes, like the Revelations Tarot that flips upside down. That's why I need a label maker, because I don't know what all these are. Oh, the Tarot of the Old Path. And my Raven's Prophecy Tarot, which generally my Raven's Prophecy Tarot is out, but because I'm working on some other decks right now and it's kind of not in season, so to speak, it's over here because that was gifted to me. So that is my tarot collection. Obviously, I'm not going through every single one, but I just thought you might want to take a peek and see where I have all my decks. That's all my decks. And I guess just while we're at it, so my messy desk, and that's the cubicles that you saw all my different cards on. That's my light that I use because right down here is my reading table. Oops, make sure nobody's name is showing up, but this is a little container that I keep the clipboard that has readings to be done, as well as some papers, miscellaneous things that I keep in here, and also blocks Isabel from getting on the table. Yes, that is a necessary feature. This I kind of put my matches out in. I have my runes here, my salt crystal. This is where I have a little slice of birch wood that I keep different little grids on, and I really love having that. These are sort of my power stones right here, as well as my heart labradorite, some amethyst. This is a card I'm using for an Instagram beautiful Three of Wands. This is for an Instagram challenge, so I have that out just because I need to work with it, take some pictures of it. And then over here I have my Isabel Lenormand, which I always keep on my table, my Earthbound Oracle, which always stays on my table, miscellaneous stones that I pull from for readings, my smudging, and my Palo Alto smudging. This is for lighting essential oils, my chakra stones. This generally has 3 candles in it, but I had to replace them. This was my rainwater collected at the Halloween full moon. And this is an incense burner that my daughter gave me for Christmas. Oh, and my tiny tarot, which is so cute. And these are the rune cards that stay on my table as well. So that's my reading table. So there, I guess that we just did a little bit of a, and then of course the tripod in which this camera normally rests on, and my very messy behind my computer monitor. I am cleaning the front part's looking pretty good, but I still need to work on cleaning out the back. So we're still working on it. But there you get a little bit of a look at, and a beautiful, this is from the Wild Unknown Three of Wands, because I think this is a stunning Three of Wands. So when the prompt was a Three of Wands, this was the first card that I thought of. So okay, I'm going to go ahead and switch it back so I can finish this up and pull a card. But the questions are you a tarot deck collector, hoarder, or exclusive Betty? I quite liked that terminology. I would definitely have to say that I am a collector, even though I did not at the beginning of the year want to say such a thing. But I would definitely say I'm a collector with parameters. I really generally, like, I don't just get a deck because, oh, that deck's out and I'm going to get it and collect, like, kind of collecting any and all decks. They do have to be decks that I want to use. I really don't keep decks that I never use unless it's a gift or something like that. And though most people who've gifted me decks have said, you know, if this just doesn't work for you, go ahead and pass it on and, you know, find somebody who it does work for. Like I did with, I think, the Damon Tarot, which Corey, I can't remember he had a drawing on his channel, and I, pass that on because it just wouldn't be something that I would use. I have, and passed some on, but mostly the decks I pass on are decks that I have bought and just been like, no, it's just not working. I do give them a fair chance, but if I'm just not connecting at all, if I am never going to pull a particular deck, I will eventually push it onward. I don't keep decks that I have no desire to work with at all. And so that's kind of a parameter for me to try to keep things in control a little bit. and, you know, kind of keep the flowing out. And so I have, you know, if I had a couple decks and I sold them, or I've exchanged them with people, that kind of thing, so I can try something new and not keep things in my collection that I'm just never going to use. So I try to keep it under control. Again, people do gift me decks. Sometimes they're decks that they didn't work for them, and they want to kind of see if it will work for me. And if not, you know, they say pass it on to the next person. Sometimes just because, you know, I've worked with people or clients, you know, I've done work with, and they'll be like, I really want to give you this deck, which is so sweet. I have done decks in exchange for readings. And then some people just are so sweet and just send me decks because they're so nice. So I accumulate some decks that way as well. As to how many, is that one of the next questions? Oh, but I did want to say, I have also been an exclusive Betty, so I do have a little bit of perspective on both sides. I did use my first deck, as you know, you saw in the first question, the first days, I combined two questions. I used the Llewellyn Tarot for almost 9 years exclusively. Then I purchased the Shadowscapes Tarot and used that for over a year exclusively. And then I picked up two decks. The one was the Paulina Tarot and one was the Fairy Lights Tarot, neither of which decks I still have in my collection because I passed them on. That was before I really got serious about researching before I bought a deck. I do like to see all of the cards in a deck before I purchase it, if at all possible, unless, again, it's a gift. There have been some exceptions to that, like those two, but that was before I was really seriously getting into purchasing decks, and so neither one of those worked out. So I do tend to want to see all the cards, which is why generally my reviews are very thorough, very long, and you do see all the cards. There are many reviews out there that leave some of that to the imagination so that you can, you know, some people don't want to see them all. And so I have thought in the past, oh, maybe I shouldn't, but it's what I do, and so, you know, people just know that when they see one of my reviews that it's going to be very thorough and you will see all the cards. Because that's the kind of reviews I actually like. I want to see all of the cards. So I don't even know how I got off on that. Oh, those two decks I don't even have those in my collection anymore. But I did, my point being, I've done the exclusive Betty route for a good chunk of time, more so than I've had the lots of different decks. So I do have a little bit of a perspective on both of those. I'm also seeing, this is actually my first year end. I'm at like 10 months of having the Truth and Story, doing professional readings online. And so this is kind of the first full year with a bigger chunk of decks. And I have to say, I think I'm kind of seasonal in my decks. So I don't necessarily have all of my decks in rotation. But I will pull from all of them. But I have, you know, a few that I tend to really work with, which I have a video up of my 2015 most used decks. So you can watch that, where I talk about that a little bit more. How do you use these decks in your readings? I give readings with them. I don't know. I mean, I give readings with my decks. Oh, well, here's a further question. Multiple decks in one reading or just one all the way? Usually multiple decks. When I do like a large tarot reading, a lot of times it's one tarot deck and then I'll pull like an oracle card for, you know, an affirmation or clarification, these kinds of things. In that case, it generally is one tarot deck with an affirmation. I have my primary reading, the reading that I enjoy doing the most probably. I like doing all my readings, but one of my bigger readings that I do consistently is my 3 voices. I have a smaller one and I have a large and a more extended one, but that uses a Lenormand deck, a tarot deck, and an oracle deck. Both of those do. So then, of course, I would be using 3. When I get into really big spreads, say like the past life reading, which can get pretty expansive, and I'm kind of looking at different areas and different questions, I used quite a few for that. So it depends. I have to say, now that I have my own reading table where I can pull a bunch of decks and kind of have them, when I get a reading, I guess, and which would be a good question, and maybe it's down here and I'm going to be answering it, but When I get a reading and I'm going to go sit down to do a reading, I generally go through a process, which maybe if that's of interest to somebody, I've seen those videos before where somebody goes through their process. So maybe that's something I'll do if you show any interest in that. Put it in the comment box below. But I'll generally pull a few decks that are resonating with me. Sometimes it's just, a couple, but I generally, at least, I always have Lenormand decks on my table. I always have, whatever tarot deck seems like it's calling out. Sometimes whatever Oracle deck's calling, although sometimes in the middle of the reading I'll go get a different one that's just really calling. So I would say more often than not I use multiple decks in one reading. And then the last question for this day is, does it aid your practice? I think this is a good question because I've said this many, many, many times. The only thing that you need to read tarot is one deck, possibly three if you want one Lenormand, one tarot, and one Oracle deck. But you only need one deck to read tarot. That's all you need is yourself and a deck. And I did that for a very long time. And there's something to be said for giving concentrated effort into a deck where you really get to know that particular deck. Because I've done that twice, I can say that there is something to be said about not having a ton of decks. However, I will also say on the reverse side that as a professional tarot reader, and I can't speak to personal because when I was just reading for me personally, I didn't have a bunch of decks. So I don't have that experience. But so since I've accumulated most of my decks since I've been reading professionally. And so I will say that I enjoy having multiple decks to pull from, and I use multiple decks for various readings. I have certain decks that really work for me because I do a Journey with Grief reading that is very dear to my heart because I will ever be in the process of grieving the loss of my son. That reading is very powerful for me. It's something that I enjoy. Not enjoy because I don't obviously want somebody to have to come to me for grief, but it's a reading that's very close to my heart. There are decks that I use for those readings, although it will change up depending on the person. Something I'll intuitively hit on a different deck, but there are specific, really, for me, what resonate is very healing decks that I will use for that reading, that really call to that reading. I have certain decks that when people say I'm feeling vulnerable, I need nurturing, there's certain decks that I'm going to go for. If there is, if I do birth charts and then a reading with it, that's kind of personality based, not so much divinatory, depending on the age. But I do sometimes do them for younger, people do them for their kids or their nieces and nephews for birthday presents and things like that. And so I have certain decks that I am comfortable using for kids. Again, I'm not reading their future, but it's a personality kind of based and goes through the houses sometimes, or an elemental reading. But it's more kind of personality based for children. And so there are certain decks that I kind of go to for those particular things. So, that's that kind of thing where I do enjoy having multiple decks to pull from because of that. It's part of my intuitive process when somebody's talking things over with me about what they want from the reading, depending on the question, depending on the person's personality, just in interacting. I usually have a pretty strong idea of what deck I'm going to use, and it does pull from the variety of my decks. If I never pull from a deck, if I never feel called to use it, I'm generally going to pass it on. But then I do have my core ones like the Wild Unknown, the Fountain Tarot, the Tarot of the Hidden Realms, Tarot Muha for a classic one. Those are kind of my 4 base ones, and then I pull from around that. So yes, the rambling question of, oh my goodness, it's like this is not going to be a short one, but I did, because I did a walkthrough of my decks quickly. So does it aid my practice? I would say yes, although I will always reiterate that it's not necessary. I did many readings just using the Llewellyn Tarot for other people, as well as the Shadowscape even. And so is it necessary to have a whole bunch of decks to do that? No. Do I enjoy it? Yes. So there we have it. Okay, I need to pull a card of the day because I didn't do it yesterday, and Jamie was like, what? There's no card of the day? I'm going to be using the Spirit Messages Oracle because I really love this. I chopped it down for any people who are new to the channel. I took all the words off of it, and I love this little deck. This little deck has been showing up since I got it, and since I chopped all the words off, I use this one a lot. I'm not going to lie. This is one that may end up kind of being one that stays on my table because it's nice and compact, and I do like it kind of for an affirmative message ending, but I do quite like it because I have the Earthbound Oracle that stays on my reading table that's very practical and clarifying. This would be a nice smaller one for affirmations to just leave on my table. So, so let's see what we have for January 3rd. I did pull a card yesterday. It's on my Facebook page or my Instagram if you follow either of those. So there was a card for yesterday. I just didn't do it on YouTube, and I'm rectifying that today. Okay, so let's see what we get. We got Study. I love this one because I love obviously all the books, and I love the butterflies around it because there is that transformative nature of when we study and we gain knowledge, that it transforms us. In fact, on my last video for this, where we were talking about my experience with tarot and with the book burnings and the tarot book burnings and that kind of stuff, and I said that reading is what I think kept my mind open from dogma. And I think nobody's here had left a comment, that books are the windows to the soul, and they are. And reading multiple perspectives and reading from the perspective of many different people's souls, I think, is what opens us up. It doesn't mean we have to take and keep everything that we read, but it just goes in and out, and we're able to, as you get older, and as you progress through reading and doing these kinds of things, you learn to keep the important stuff and just let go of the other stuff. That's kind of what studying is. It's kind of a lot of times studying is that sort of skimming things, but deep skimming, where you're kind of getting things in, really learning how to grab out what's important and let go of what's the rest of the stuff that you don't want to clutter your brain up. That's what I think of with study, because I went to school for a very, very long time, and it took me, I think, 11 years to get my bachelor's degree in writing and literature, and another while to almost finish my master's in literature. So I did a lot of kind of study reading, and so being able to perceptively study, which is to skim almost, but I'm talking about deep skimming. I'm not talking about like not taking anything in, but really being able to read through things and pull out what's essential and let go of, because you can't clog your mind up with everything. So kind of when you read a book and then you're kind of like, okay, this is what I really got out of this, and letting the rest of it go to go on to the next one. That's what I think of with this, and that how transformative it is. I just don't believe that knowledge is ever a bad thing, even if it's knowledge that you end up saying, you know what, I really don't agree with that. You've still learned something. You've still seen somebody else's perspective. We see that a lot on YouTube. There are tons of channels out there that you can, sometimes they're really on target with how you approach things. Sometimes they're just a little bit sideways from the way, and you get a new perspective, even if maybe you're not going to say, okay, that's now my perspective, but you still get a new perspective, and some that might be completely opposite from yours, you can still gain knowledge and perspective without saying, you know, these are exactly like me. If we only talk to people that are exactly like we are, that's to my opinion, a sad way of experiencing the world. And so just some random. So the card for me is just saying, open your mind up to all the new experiences and the new information. Learn how to let things go that aren't pertinent, are not helping you in any way. Let it go and keep the important things. And examine life through the eyes of studying a life in order to learn, because that's the whole process of life, is learning. So there we have it, our card for the day, and I hope that you all have a wonderful day, and I will obviously see you tomorrow.